Hello everyone, and I'm Autobot Sonic the Telltale Gamer, bringing latest in Telltale games, Transformers, and more. Now, it's been a long year, it feels like. I can't believe it's been over a year now since I've been covering Transformers EarthSpark, but everything's gotta come to an end at some point, and unfortunately, that day is today. Because today, we are going to be looking at the Season 1 finale of Transformers EarthSpark with episodes 25 and 26, The Last Hope Parts 1 and 2. This is pretty much the end of everything that this whole season of EarthSpark has been leading up to, with this big final confrontation between the Maltos and Mandroid, and it was a roller coaster, let me tell you that. There is so much with these two episodes that literally I had such a roller coaster of emotions. I went from being incredibly disappointed as the episode started to being so satisfied as by the end of the episode, and then immediately feeling deflated at the ending, but then immediately also a bit after feeling like it was an incredible ending. So I want to give you my thought process to why I went down this roller coaster of emotions with this, because I truly think that after I've been part of this fandom for almost 10 years now, since 2015 with RID 15 getting me into the franchise. With having watched RID 15, G1, Prime, Cyberverse, a bit of animated, and now EarthSpark, I think it's safe to say that, at least in my opinion, Transformers EarthSpark is without a doubt the best TV show in the entire Transformers franchise, and is probably my favorite universe in the Transformers franchise, with the exception of the IDW comics and the upcoming Skybound comics as well. EarthSpark is just so full of heart and soul, and you can tell everyone just involved with the show put their 100% into it, and it just feels like such a finished, incredible product, and I couldn't be more excited to talk about it. So without further ado, let's go ahead and finally cover the review of the Season 1 finale of Transformers EarthSpark, starting off with Episode 25, The Last Hope Part 1. Like the last episode, Episode 25 picks up immediately after the events of the Battle of the Wiki, with Mandroid arriving in the middle of the Malto homestead as the Maltos are still battling Croft after she used the Energon possession weapon that Mandroid had created for her to immobilize Megatron and the rest of the Autobots. So we finally get to understand what exactly happened to Mandroid after he left in the space bridge at the start of Episode 24, and it is horrifying for a kid's cartoon. So we see that not only is Mandroid inside of this giant Sharkticon quintessent-like cyborg piece of armor, he's literally the armor. His whole body is just completely been destroyed except for his head, which is suspended within this weird metallic liquid jar that's surrounded by the armor, the quintessent armor as I'm gonna call it, where he's got these four like fleshy alien arms, even a tail that he can rip out as sort of like a staff that he uses for several attacks throughout these two episodes, and even has like some bunch of windows in his armor that he can float his head around to like observe everything around him. It's such a horrifying sight for a kid's show to have Mandroid go so far. I thought for sure maybe he was just gonna take over some dead Cybertronian's body by the end of Season 1. It'd be very similar to what happened with Silas in Transformers Prime, where after he was mortally injured during a fight with Fowler and Optimus, he had to end up having his body put inside of Breakdown, so therefore he was basically just controlling Breakdown's body. But no, Mandroid literally has shed his entire human body save for his head, which we can see little snippets of. It attached, it looks like some sort of giant massive cables or just some sort of alien flesh thing that resembles like a really long stretchable neck. It's so dark and like just gruesome for a kid's show, but I think it really sells the body horror that's Mandroid slowly been building up to throughout this entire show, having him start off with just Hardtop's arm, then he gets Brawl's arm and starts becoming more reliant on Energon, and now he's gotten to the point where he's had to turn his whole body into a Transformer essentially, just so that he wouldn't kill himself with the Energon slowly poison his body. So now he runs almost presumably entirely off Energon at this point, where his eyes are like glowing red constantly. All of his teeth are all shark-like too, and literally his whole head is just a disembodied head with just a few strands of hair still stuck to his head. It's such a gross but also just so incredible like image to have Mandroid take on this final form, and I am absolutely in love with it. So everyone is shocked by Mandroid's transformation, including Croft, who is surprised by how quickly he changed after having been gone for only a day, as she put it. Though Mandroid explains that apparently wherever he went, time works differently, because he says that after he left through the space bridge, he had been gone off-world for at least a year before returning to Earth. So he explains further by introducing 2 Sharkticon enforcers that he brought with him, Blitzfin and Razorwave, who resemble pretty much just your regular G1 Sharkticons. We got a purple one with Razorfin and a blue one with Blitzwave. They're both voiced by Nolan North and Steve Bloom, who I think just as like normal grunts that they serve their purpose as just extra muscle from Android. But it is funny considering that they're voiced by Steve Bloom and Nolan North, considering this isn't the first time that they've two voiced like a duo unit for Transformers, being that they both voiced Darksteel and Skylynx back in Transformers Prime's Predacons Rising finale movie. I just thought that was a little funny thing that they got Nolan North and Steve Bloom again to play 2 muscle for the main villain of this episode, so to speak, like they were with Predaking and Predacons Rising. Granted, Predaking wasn't a villain per se, but you get what I'm saying. He kind of was for like the first 10-20 minutes of the movie, but whatever. Anyway, Mandroid explains to Croft and the rest of the Maltos that while he was off-world, he had liberated Razorfin, Blitzwave, and the rest of their Sharkticon brethren from the people who had taken over their planet. It's never explained who the Sharkticon's masters were, but if it's taken a lot of influence from G1, like a lot of this rest of the show has been, it's pretty safe to say that the Quintessons are involved in the EarthSpark continuity, so we may end up seeing them in Season 2, especially given how important Quintus Prime is to this. Maybe Quintus Prime got his name because he was a former Quintesson who ended up just turning himself into a Cybertronian. Granted, I know that's not how Quintus Prime works in other continuities, but maybe EarthSpark will do something different. But I do like Mandroid's backstory for how he ended up getting this new body and hiring Razorfin and Blitzwave to help him kill the Maltos. So then, to demonstrate how powerful his new body is, he literally takes his tail and stretches it out to stab Shockwave right in the chest with it, where we see that his tail, as I mentioned before, can function as an energy staff weapon as well, that apparently has the ability to drain the energon from anything it touches. And in the case of a regular Cybertronian like Shockwave, this doesn't necessarily outright kill them, but it basically just forces them to a stasis because they're draining all the energon out of them. So Mandroid drains all the energon out of Shockwave, knocking him out of commission for the remainder of this episode, and says that he's going to do the same thing to all the Terrans, in which if they were to get stabbed with it, they'd just straight up die, considering how little energon they run off of. So he states that he's going to kill all the Terrans and use Robbie Moe's Cyber Sleeve power with the Power Quintus Prime inside them to enact his ultimate revenge against all the Transformers. So that leads to Robbie Moe and the rest of the Maltos and Terrans all trying to make a break for it in the woods, while Blitzwing, Razor, and Razorwave chase after them. The Maltos are all on the run from the Sharkticons, and this scene, I believe, just really sets the stakes for this whole finale. That it really makes you feel like, okay, we had all our fun and games the past 25 episodes, now it's time for stuff to get serious with this one, because literally, not even 2 minutes into this chase, we have Jawbreaker and Twitch carrying Dot and Alex as hashtag Thrash and Nightshade carry Robbie and Moe in front of them. So as they're all running way through the forest, as Blitzfin and Razorwave are chasing after them, one of their rockets ends up like destroying like a lot of trees that Jawbreaker has to hop over, but as he's going through them with Dot and Twitch is with Alex right beside them, I believe it's Razorfin that ends up jumping out of like all the trees, getting ready to eat Jawbreaker and Dot. So Dot ends up having to basically push herself up into the air to springboard herself off of Jawbreaker and give him a little more momentum so that he doesn't get bitten on by Razorfin. But in the process, Alex ends up doing the same to Twitch, and therefore Razorfin ends up eating Dot and Alex just in one big bite. And if I didn't know better, if I didn't see stuff that showed that Dot and Alex were going to be fine at the end of this episode, I would have totally thought up until a certain point later in this episode that Dot and Alex would have actually died here. I was super shocked by this, and the fact that literally all the Terrans and even Robbie Moe, of course, are all like freaking out over the fact that their parents are presumably dead. It really made me think that if I didn't know better, Dot and Alex would have actually died there. And so kudos to the EarthSpark team for making such a believable death scene, or fake out death scene, I should say, because it really makes you feel like, okay, we're pulling all the stops now, time for everyone to start dying, we gotta have these bodies dropping down quick in the finale, we've got 40 minutes to make the most heartbreaking thing after you've gotten 24 episodes to know these characters. So kudos to the EarthSpark team for doing that. By this point, all the rest of the Terrans are still obsessed with getting Robbie and Mo as far away from the Sharkticons and Mandroid as possible, even though Robbie and Mo just want to do nothing more than fight and get revenge for their parents presumably being killed by the Sharkticons. Though, despite this, hashtag Nightshade and the rest of the Terrans are all focused more so on getting Robbie and Mo away. However, they don't get too far, because at some point, one of Razorfinn's missiles ends up actually hitting hashtag and Jawbreaker, and just when they're about to crash, like, off of the edge of a waterfall, they manage to throw Robbie and Mo to Nightshade and Twitch, so Thrash is about to go off the waterfall, but hashtag catches her, but then they're stopped by another missile that knocks the two of them and Jawbreaker off, causing them to fall all the way down the waterfall into a river in the bottom. And this scene bothers me just so much just because of how much Thrash gets disregarded in this scene, because literally when hashtag and Jawbreaker all fall into the water, basically out of commission for the remainder of this episode until episode 26. But when Twitch goes to try and find them, she just says, "Oh, hashtag Jawbreaker, if you can hear us, meet us up later." She doesn't really even acknowledge that Thrash was there as well. Like, come on! Thrash has been so shafted throughout this entire show, and the fact that his sister doesn't even bother to care about him to the point that she does for hashtag and Jawbreaker too. Oh, it's so frustrating. It's the one con I have this episode, just how much Thrash gets shafted in episode 25. So that just leaves Twitch and Nightshade as the sole Terrans to take care of Robbie and Mo, which is a really interesting combo, and not the one I would have wanted per se. I think that since this is the big finale, you really should have had Twitch and Thrash get the main focus in this finale. Granted, Thrash gets a lot more to do in episode 26, but considering this whole thing, I really thought that Nightshade would have been one of the ones to get knocked out alongside hashtag and Jawbreaker and just leave us back to Twitch and Thrash like it was for the first 9 episodes of EarthSpark. Regardless though, I do like Twitch and Nightshade's interactions in this episode, so there is that. It isn't entertaining, but I just wish personally that we got to see more of Thrash, because really, come on season 2, just give us more Thrash, please. He's my favorite Terran for a reason. With Thrash, hashtag and Jawbreaker's fates unknown, that finally convinces Twitch and Nightshade to finally agree with Robbie and Mo and actually fight the Sharkticons. And I absolutely love how this fight starts off, where at first, Nightshade and Twitch are carrying Robbie and Mo above the clouds, where Robbie and Mo aren't sure if Thrash, hashtag and Jawbreaker are even dead. I absolutely love how this fight between them and the Sharkticons starts, where it starts out with them all above the clouds, and then you can literally see, as they're talking, right below Nightshade and Twitch, you can actually see the dorsal fins of Razorfinn and Blitzwave breaking through the clouds, getting ready to jump up and bite them. To me, this whole aerial fight, if you ever saw the last episode of House of Dragon on HBO, that's literally how I felt watching this. It literally felt like the last episode of House of the Dragon, when the big dragon fight in the sky, without going into big spoilers. It reminds me of that, where you have Nightshade and Twitch doing their best to try and dodge Razorfinn and Blitzwave and they do a pretty good job of dodging him until Mandroid ends up shooting through the sky with his tail scepter, and the lasers end up clipping one of Nightshade's wings, causing them to fall down alongside Robbie and Mo, but Twitch manages to catch Robbie and Mo before Nightshade crashes down. One thing that does bother me here is the fact that you can clearly see Mandroid's laser cuts Nightshade's wings, but they don't seem that their wings don't take any actual damage. It just feels like, oh, Nightshade's wings got burned or something. I thought for sure maybe like a bit of their wings was actually going to get cut off completely. But no, it looks like there's no cosmetic damage to the wings at all, and that just bothers me a little bit considering we know what I know happens later on this episode. But anyway though, once they're on the ground, the fight doesn't get any less exciting, and I absolutely love how Robbie and Mo get involved in this fight as well, where they're actually able to defeat the Sharkticons without Mandroid there to stop them anymore. I absolutely love the final part of this, where Nightshade ends up being cornered by, I think, Blitzwave. So as he goes to try and bite Nightshade, Mo actually manages to save them by slashing out the Sharkticon's legs with her Cyber Blade, and Robbie stuns him in the back of the head with his shield, and that gives Nightshade enough time to do a whole Shoryuken on Blitzwave, knocking him out as well. And so just when Nightshade, Twitch, and the rest of and Robbie and Mo are getting ready to escape, they're stopped by Mandroid, who launches a missile at them, and manages to get Robbie and Mo under his control by basically, he has like his alien arms that actually are able to like stretch ridiculously long too. And I just love how menacing Mandroid is in this. Sure, the Terrans have faced Mandroid before in episode 10 and 17, but this is a totally different Mandroid, essentially, that he's now powered up with this brand new quintessence-like body, and they're clearly no match for him, and I love that power scaling here. So Mandroid grabs Robbie and Mo, and using his staff actually drains the prime power out of their cyber sleeves. So without any further use for them, he actually just throws them into Blitzwave's mouth, who eats them whole, just like Razorfin did with Dot and Alex earlier in this episode. However, based on when this happened, I'm like, okay, yeah, we know now that Robbie and Mo aren't actually dead, because there's no way. Granted, sure, EarthSpark may kill someone, but they're not gonna kill 2 kids in a Y7 show. Let's be real here. Especially, you can sort of see a little sneak peek of this when Robbie and Mo actually get eaten by Blitzwave. You can actually see his mouth actually has what looks to be like little portal pocket space, that when Robbie and Mo fall into his mouth, they actually like get teleported away somewhere right before he closes his mouth. However, Twitch and Nightshade don't notice, so they believe Robbie and Mo are just fully dead and that they're the only ones that can stop Mandroid now. So with this, Mandroid and Razorfin end up retreating back to the space bridge where he agreed to meet up with Croft earlier in this episode, and tasks Blitzwave with killing Twitch and Nightshade. So he just fires a bunch of missiles at Twitch and Nightshade, believing that'll be enough to kill them, and leaves, so that way Twitch and Nightshade are able to escape after they're all gone. So going into this final episode, when I was watching for the first time, I at first was not a fan at all of Twitch and Nightshade being the final 2 that would be stopping Mandroid. I always thought Twitch and Thrash were the center of EarthSpark, so I thought, if you're gonna have 2 characters fight Mandroid, it's gotta be Twitch and Thrash. They were the ones who started this show, they gotta be the ones who end Mandroid if it's them. So when I saw that Nightshade was gonna beat it, again, I have nothing against Nightshade. I think they're a fantastic character and all that. But really, to have the final fight of this show be with Twitch and Nightshade against Mandroid, I was not looking forward to that, because just to me, it just didn't feel right after everything that happened. Like, granted, Nightshade's such a great character, I love them so much, but it just feels like that I don't think they really deserve to be the ones to take down Mandroid until seeing the entirety of the episode play out. And this is why we keep our opinions to ourselves until the whole thing is over. Having Twitch and Nightshade together for the rest of episode 25 and the first like 10 minutes of episode 26, it was a great call in my opinion, because I love how overwhelmingly positive Nightshade is. And this is something we've seen them be repeatedly throughout the entire series ever since they were born back in episode 10, that pretty much regards to everyone else, when everyone else feels down, Nightshade is always the one to bring people back and make them feel they can do anything they put their minds to. And I love that here when Twitch is feeling totally hopeless, believing that Thrash, Hashtag, and Jawbreaker are somewhere else, and that Robbie, Mo, Dot, and Alex are all dead, having been eaten by the Sharkticons. She thinks that there's no way they can stop Mandroid now. However, Nightshade is the one who ends up talking to Twitch, with them telling her that, no, we can do this, we can keep fighting, we're still here. That doesn't necessarily, just because Robbie, Mo, Dot, and Alex are gone, we can't still fight. So I love that they even mentioned the Twitch how she's gonna be the one that ends up lighting their darkest hour, because that's really how much this show has been building towards this entire time, with Twitch becoming the leader of the Autobots, essentially. And this line here where Nightshade literally tells Twitch to light their darkest hour, I really think this show is setting up that Twitch could potentially be a Prime in the future. EarthSpark, if you're gonna have season 2 be the final season, whenever you're gonna end EarthSpark, please make Twitch a Prime. I would absolutely love if Twitch ends up becoming a Prime at the very end of EarthSpark. That would be the perfect end to this show, because I just think it's such a natural evolution of Twitch's character, how she's progressed throughout this whole season so far. It's so good. So after getting a little pep talk from Nightshade, Twitch gets back into it and realizes that there's still stuff they can do to save the world from Mandroid, and that is to figure out a way to get his spear, which allows him to drain the energon of anyone. So they think that they can take that away from him. Mandroid won't be as much of a threat, but also they need to break out Bumblebee and Agent Schloeder, who were last taken in by Croft and Ghost at the end of episode 23. And so that leads to Twitch and Nightshade heading over to the Ghost Base to try and free them both. So as Twitch and Nightshade make their way to the Ghost Base to save Bumblebee and Schloeder, we actually get to see what they've been doing here. And I absolutely love this scene here where Bumblebee and Schloeder are like playing Go Fish or something, essentially. And Schloeder, being the Bumblebee suitor he is, he's actually using the hologram projector that Nightshade gave Bumblebee to pretend that he's Bumblebee as well. So they're like playing with each other with 2 Bumblebees. And it's just so good as they're all playing together. And then
there he is! There's my favorite white boy!
My boy Breakdown finally shows up again after 10 episodes. You have no idea, the inhumane scream of joy I made when I saw Breakdown literally in this one scene. I literally thought, like, if we were gonna see Breakdown again, it would have been in Stowaway. So after he didn't show up in that episode, I'm like, oh, okay, that's it. We're not gonna see Breakdown again. Breakbee is dead. We're never gonna see him again. And then literally the second Breakdown pops up on his screen, I was absolutely so excited because I'm thinking, yes, we're finally gonna have more Bumblebee and Breakdown. He didn't die. That wasn't his arm that was in Mandroid's little, like, makeshift laugh back in episode 17 and 18, or if it was just a reused asset, but Breakdown's still alive, and I'm like, oh my god, yes, please, thank you. So after seeing Breakdown just watch, and even Swindle and Soundwave watch Bumblebee and Schiller's poker game, or like Go Fish game, the lights suddenly go off thanks to Twitch and Nightshade breaking into the ghost space, and they managed to free them by killing all the Goids inside the base. And I absolutely love how brutal this is, where Twitch literally slices one of the Goids in half, literally Pharma style. And granted, I think this is the reason why they introduced the Goids back in episode 23, that they can give Twitch an excuse to fight all these ghost soldiers as brutally as possible without having to be like, oh well, she's killing humans, human ghost agents. But no, she's just killing robots that look like humans. It's the same thing that the 2012 Ninja Turtles show did with all the Krang and the foot ninja robot soldiers. That's how I feel like if you to get past all like the Y7 rating and all that, where you can't have characters killing a bunch of humans, just have them kill a bunch of robots. Who will care? So anyway, Twitch and Nightshade managed to free Bee, Schloter, and all the other Decepticons too. And at this point, Schloter realizes that that ghost is just done, so he rips off the ghost patch on his jacket and tells Bee and everyone else to just call him John from now on. And here's the one part though that actually hurt me a lot. So Nightshade, while Twitch is freeing Bee and Schloter, Nightshade goes to free all the other Decepticons, that Soundwave, Breakdown, Swindle, Hardtop, Skullcruncher, the Insecticons, and Nightshade gives this really like empowering speech about how they need all the Decepticons to help them and the rest of their siblings and family stop Mandroid, who wants to wipe out all Transformers on Earth. And it's pretty funny in like retrospect, but it just disappointed me a little bit when they're like, oh, please help us fight Mandroid, he wants to destroy us all, and then literally everyone just walks away. Literally everyone. Soundwave, Swindle, Hardtop, Skullcruncher, the Insecticons, everyone, even Breakdown. Though I do like here when, as they all walk away, Twitch actually tries to go to Breakdown and try and get him to reconsider, but Breakdown's the one who actually comes back saying that he doesn't really feel like sticking his neck out for Earth, essentially, considering how badly humans have treated him and the rest of the Decepticons. So of course they have a reason to it. But I love the hesitation here, that you can tell that Breakdown doesn't really want to leave Bee to do it by himself, because even after Twitch, he rejects Twitch begging to have him help them all out. It's Bumblebee next who like actually looks shocked that Breakdown won't help them. And you get like, it's such a small moment, but it seems like Bumblebee's truly hurt by Breakdown not wanting to help Bee. But you can actually see Breakdown doesn't say no immediately. There's a good like 1 to 2 seconds where after Bee like asks Breakdown something like he doesn't want Breakdown to just walk away, Breakdown struggles with actually saying no to him. He gives like a good 2-second pause before he actually just tells Bumblebee, says that he's sorry but he's not gonna do it, but wishes him the best in stopping Mandroid. Oh, like it. When I first watched this, I was heartbroken, thinking like, oh my god, like, really? I've invested too much time into making Bumblebee and Breakdown an actual ship that's happening, and you're gonna have Breakdown just reject Bumblebee right here? Oh, like, in hindsight, though, you can see that he doesn't want to let Bee do this by himself, because he cares so much about him. He's his brother or his boyfriend, however you want to look at it. I want to see Breakbee happen so badly, but if you want to see him as a brother, too, that's totally fine. But, it's so good, and thankfully, though, we'll be seeing more of Breakdown much later, but don't worry about that. But I do like to see now in retrospect for what it is about how Breakdown struggles, where he clearly had no problem leaving Twitch to fight Mandroid, but then it's Bumblebee that he hesitates on wanting to leave behind to fight Mandroid. It's such a good scene in retrospective. So with Breakdown, the rest of Decepticons leaving, that just leaves Bumblebee, John, Twitch, and Nightshade to go and stop Mandroid and Croft. And we get to what is arguably, I believe, the most shocking scene in the entire show. Twitch, Nightshade, Schloter, and Bee all head down to the space bridge room that we saw back in episode 23 to eavesdrop on Mandroid and Croft and to see what's going on. And this scene, man, this scene was crazy watching it the first time. I literally rewatching it. I've rewatched the scene maybe probably about like 3 or 4 times now since then. And every single time, I'm still in awe that EarthSpark actually managed to get away with this, and with how shocking it is, essentially. So, Twitch, Nightshade, Schroeder, and B are all hiding behind some cargo as Schroeder and all her goids are with Mandroid observing the space bridge. And we see that it's glowing red once again like it was back at the start of episode 24 when Mandroid first left in it. So, Croft basically demands an explanation from Mandroid explaining why did the energy possession device basically give her all the scars across her face. And Croft, I'm no rocket scientist, but you know Energon is associated with pink. You wouldn't feel like something has entered your body, and the fact that she just now was mentioning how her hand, or her fingertips on the hand that the device latched onto, have all turned like completely black, as if like the device is eating away at her body. You'd think she'd know that she's been injected with Energon, but she doesn't. She just asks Mandroid why did the device stab itself into her and why she got all the scars across her face and body as a result. So that's when Mandroid basically explains his whole plan to Croft, that essentially the space bridge is now under his control and that he doesn't want Croft using it anymore. So Croft is confused by this, and Mandroid explains that the space bridge is apparently so much more than just a space bridge. Somehow, the show never really explains it, but my guess is that Quintus Prime probably maybe did something with it, similar to how he made the tunnels with the Dweller and all that back in episode 21, and there was the cave water stuff. Maybe Quintus Prime was doing some sort of experimentation and ended up accidentally creating this weapon. But turns out, apparently, according to Mandroid, the space bridge also doubles as some sort of giant, like, signal function that can emit a powerful energy wave if charged with the right frequency across the entire world. So with some little tinkering, Mandroid has apparently reprogrammed the weapon to basically seek out any Energon-based life forms, and to Croft's unfortunate luck, he decides to test it out on her in what has to be, in my opinion, the most brutal death we have ever seen in a Transformers cartoon. Mandroid explains that with the weapon, he has injected Croft with Energon and therefore marked her as a target for said weapon. So Croft, realizing that she's pretty much done for at this point, rips off the device from her hand in an effort to try and run away from the space bridge and Mandroid, as her whole arm starts turning black now. Not just her fingertips, but just her whole arm at this point. But she doesn't get too much far before a red burst of lightning emerges from the space bridge and strikes Croft, and it starts basically ripping her apart, turning her to dust completely. She's literally writhing on the ground in pain, like you hear bones breaking as she screams out in pain, and the whole time her brother Schroeder is watching his sister get killed by Mandroid here in such a brutal way. He actually goes to try and like assault Mandroid in like a full-on attack, like as trying to get back for killing Croft, but it's Twitch who actually ends up having to pull Schroeder back, saying that they've all lost people, that they need to keep their cool if they're going to stop Mandroid. So he can only just watch in horror as literally in the most brutal scene I've ever seen in a Transformers cartoon, Mandroid basically dissolves Agent Croft, the weapon. Literally, the last shot we have before Agent Croft is killed by Mandroid, it's literally, you can see her arms and legs literally all disintegrate as she just basically explodes in a ball of lightning, so that all that remains is just a big pile of dust that's smoking from the shockwave of the space bridge. Now, this is just absolutely incredible for that EarthSpark was able to get away with such a graphic death for Croft. Granted, again, we're not literally see Croft explode in a mess of blood and gore and all that. She's literally just turns to dust, essentially. But still, you're having one of your main villains in EarthSpark just straight up die in such a painful way. It's so crazy that EarthSpark was able to get away with this in a Y7 TV show. At the same time, though, as good as it is, I am really sad, though, to see Agent Croft go, because as I've said several times now throughout this show, I really think Agent Croft is without a doubt the best human villain the Transformers franchise has ever had. And while I agree that yes, this is probably the best way you could have killed her off, to have her as someone who thinks she was in control the whole time, finally get one pulled under her nose by Mandroid, who gets the jump on her and kills her, it's a really fitting end for Croft, and Kari Wahlgren did a fantastic job playing her in this show. But part of me really wishes that we just could have seen her play more in season 2. Maybe it should have ended with Croft being arrested, but then at the same time, I don't want Croft to become the handsome Jack of EarthSpark. So For any who don't know, in the Borderlands franchise, Handsome Jack was regarded by maybe like the best video game villain of all time. He dies at the end of Borderlands 2, which is his first game. Everyone was like, oh, well, now that he's dead, how are you going to make a better villain than him? So Gearbox is like, oh, well, we can't really make a better villain than Handsome Jack, so we're just constantly reviving him every other game. And it just sort of ruins the impact of Handsome Jack. So I don't want to see Croft go to Handsome Jack, or that she ends up getting revived somehow. If this is the end of Croft, I think it's a fitting end for her, even though I personally would have loved to see more of her. It's such a good end for her character, though. Just what an incredible way. And again, even though I'm sad to see Croft go, she had such an amazing death, and Kari Walgren played her fantastically. So just kudos to the EarthSpark team for creating easily the best human villain in the franchise with Agent Croft. You guys had her do her job. She was totally utilized in a perfect way. She didn't feel wasted at all, and you guys should be proud of that. After Mandroid kills Croft, he basically then reveals to Razorfin, Blitzwave, and the rest of the Goids that are now under his control that this is his plan. He plans to use this weapon to cost an entire energy wave that will not only just kill Croft, who was already poisoned with Energon, but it will wipe out every single Energon-based life form on Earth, therefore ridding the world of all Transformers. And though he says that Razorfin and Blitzwave won't be killed by this device, you can clearly tell that Mandroid totally intends to betray them and kill them all as well, believing that once everyone else is dead, there will be no more threats to Earth, and that he'll be seen as a hero for what he's done. So it's at this point, again, Schloeder is just totally gung-ho, ready to go after Mandroid, but Twitch and Nightshade manage to stop him and try to get him to calm down so that they can formulate a proper plan. So Twitch at this point realizes that most of Mandroid's power comes from his little tail spear, so if they can get that spear away from him, maybe they can find out a way to defeat him. So to do this, Bumblebee actually ends up giving Nightshade the hologram projector that they gave him back in episode 23, and using this, Nightshade reprograms it so that not only creates one copy of Nightshade, but actually creates literally a whole army of themselves that charges alongside Bumblebee, Schloeder, and Twitch in an effort to try and distract Mandroid, the Goids, and the Sharkticons long enough for someone to get a hold of Mandroid's staff. So we get this really nice fight to close out episode 25 with all of them battling Mandroid, and this fight is surprisingly brutal as well. Like, literally, you have Mandroid grabbing Twitch by the face, slamming her repeatedly, like I mentioned Megatron did to Starscream back in 21, and there's even this one really shocking point where Nightshade tries to charge at Mandroid after he knocks out Twitch, trying to take the staff away from him. So Mandroid actually thrusts his staff towards Nightshade, stabbing them in the stomach, or what it seems to be stabs them in the stomach, because I thought, I'm like, oh my god, like, is he gonna kill Nightshade at this point now too? Are we gonna get like so many people dying after Dot and Alex presumably died in the Stars episode, then Croft died? Are we gonna see Nightshade die too? But thankfully, though, Nightshade is totally fine, and it wasn't even actually Nightshade. It was actually Schloeder disguised as one of the Nightshade clones, who ends up grabbing the staff from Schloeder, even gets an awesome moment where he gets to shoot Mandroid in the face, claiming that, like, as revenge for his sister's death, and before Mandroid gets back up, he tosses the staff to Twitch, and therefore, Bumblebee manages to reprogram the space bridge so they can all escape with the staff. This time, though, no one gets left behind. They all manage to get through. First Bumblebee and Schloeder, then Nightshade. Though when Twitch actually goes through the space bridge, right before, like, as she's flying towards it, she looks down at the deep chasm under the space bridge and actually sees Robbie, Mo, Dot, and Alex all strapped to a big obelisk with their heads encapsulated in these weird alien purple bubbles, seemingly alive. But so Twitch tries to save them, but she's already got enough momentum. She's going right into the space bridge, and she tries to go back in, like, and save all the Maltos, but not before Bumblebee ends up destroying the space bridge when they're back in the cornfield from the end of episode 23. So Twitch explains to Nightshade, Schloeder, and Bumblebee that Robbie, Mo, Dot, and Alex are still alive, and then they gotta go back to the ghost space to try and save them. However, it's at this point, though, when Mandroid finally puts his weapon into effect, and that is when the whole ghost space presumably collapses on itself, and a huge, giant obelisk tower rises from the ground. I love how it's framed in this last few minutes of episode 25, where you have the broken space bridge broken in the way that resembles sort of like a crescent moon, and it perfectly, like, fits over the current lunar eclipse almost, where it frames the moon in this awesome image of Twitch, Nightshade, B, and Schloeder all looking at the space bridge with Mandroid, the Sharkticons, Robbie, Mo, Dot, and Alex at the top of it. It's such a great shot to end this episode, and when Twitch realizing that Mandroid's weapon is going into effect presumably soon, she believes that perhaps it's too late to stop him at this point, and that leaves us with episode 25. So that's going to be it for the first half of this finale. If I had to rate episode 25, The Last Hope Part 1, easily a 10 out of 10. I'm not going to waste any more time though. Let's go ahead and now jump into the final episode of EarthSpark with episode 26, The Last Hope Part 2. It starts off immediately where episode 25 left off, with Twitch, Nightshade, Bumblebee, and Schloeder all watching Mandroid's little monolith tower rise from the remnants of the ghost base. And what's really cool is that there was actually a deleted scene that was gonna lead into a thing that happens later on this episode. So there are a lot of people who worked on the storyboards for this season 1 finale. We had a lot of people coming back from other episodes, such as Kevin Ortiz, who did the storyboards for episodes 9, 10, and 14. We have Stephanie Wrestler, who's done a lot of artwork for episodes 6, 7, 13, and 16. But the most of this episode was actually done by someone named India Swift, and they have done an incredible job storyboarding most of the fight scenes in this episode. So they did, however, storyboard one brief scene that got deleted out of the final version of this episode, which I'm playing for you right now. It was a deleted scene focusing on the 3 ghost cadets that we've been seeing throughout the throughout the entirety of EarthSpark, like the ones that are under Schloeder's command. I think their names are like Quan, Rosado, and Conway. It's basically them just loading into a ghost truck and getting out of the ghost space before the monolith rises out and the whole ghost space gets destroyed. This will come into play later on in a later scene in this episode, but I am glad that this scene got cut because it kind of keeps the suspense of what's going to happen with Ghost going on forward, because even though these ghost cadets were fairly minor characters and background people throughout the past 25 episodes, it is cool to see that they were planned to have a little explanation as to what happened to them after the events of this ghost base being destroyed by Mandroid. Anyway, once again, Twitch is feeling hopeless now that Mandroid's weapon tower is up, believing that there's nothing they can do to stop him from killing all the Transformers on Earth. However, once again, because Nightshade is just so goddamn positive, they managed to give Twitch another good pep talk, explaining that they have the staff, so all they gotta do is just fight Mandroid now, and that if they work together, they can win and beat and save the world from him. So, with renewed purpose, Twitch asks Schloeder if he's gonna help them and Bumblebee fight Mandroid, which of course he agrees to. So they all decide to go ahead towards a tower, planning on stopping Mandroid, regardless of whether or not Thrash, Hashtag, and Jawbreaker are still around to help them save the rest of the Maltos. We then cut to the top of the tower where we see Mandroid sitting on this big stone throne beside Razorfin and Blitzwave, where he tells them that they need to focus on keeping the tower secure from the Terrans, because the weapon on the tower still needs time to charge before it can kill everyone on the planet. So to buy more time for himself, he takes the Energon possession weapon that he gave to Croft back in episode 24 and activates it, planning to send all the Autobots that he shut down back in episode 24 to stall the Terrans, and that leads to great fights in this episode. So first off, I love this scene right here where it's Bee, Nightshade, Twitch, and Schloeder all heading down this wooded path to the tower, and Schloeder's just jamming out to like one of his heavy metal playlists that he's been alluding to several times throughout the series, and Bumblebee, Twitch, and Nightshade just absolutely hate it. I love this scene where literally Schloeder's talking to Bee and everyone's like, "Oh, Optimus loves my playlist, what are you talking about?" And then we just got a shot of Optimus possessed by Mandroid basically T-boning Bee and Schloeder down a cliff. It's literally like, it happened so suddenly, I literally got jump scared. Watch this. Now see, EarthSpark, this is how you do a good jump scare, not that lame Robbie air horn scream we got back in episode 22. This is how you do a jump scare. It is perfect.
What? Optimus loves my playlists.
And of course, that kicks off the first proper fight this episode, where we have Bumblebee, Schloeder, Nightshade, and Twitch battling a mind-controlled Optimus and Alita. And it is really, I love how all of these fights against the possessed Autobots, they really feel like horror movie chases, where the Terrans and Bumblebee are just so in over their heads against literally the 2 heads of the Autobots, where Optimus and Alita at first, like, they really outpower Bee and Nightshade and Twitch. So they're basically just trying to avoid them in this big cargo bay port, very similar to the one that Optimus and Alita actually fought Swindle and Hardtop in all the way back at the start of episode 1 of this season. And I love these storyboards here. Again, India Swift did those storyboards of this fight alongside many others, and the power that all the characters have in these attacks are so so strong. I love the fluidity of all of it, how Nightshade twirls Mandroid's staff in their hands as they go to try and attack Alita and Optimus. And Alita and Optimus, even though they're still possessed, it's clear that they're not fighting at their best, considering that they're still basically being controlled by Mandroid, so their movements are a lot more predictable than, say, if they were just fighting naturally, so to speak. So this does give Nightshade and Twitch the advantage on Alita, managing to actually overpower her by trapping her under some cargo containers, and Nightshade ends up stabbing the spear into her back, therefore draining her energon and immobilizing her. Not killing her, though, like Mandroid did with Croft and what he planned to do with all the other weapons, though. So Alita's still okay, alive, just out of commission at this point. Optimus, though, puts up a much better fight than Alita did, and I love just how savage Optimus gets in this. This is the closest we're gonna get to probably like a Nemesis Prime in EarthSpark, where he literally comes swinging at Twitch, Nightshade, and Bee like he's some sort of serial killer in a horror movie with his energon axe. And then when he ends up losing his axe, he ends up like producing 2 more from his hands that he throws like tomahawks at Twitch. And man, it's just so scary to think of like how deadly Optimus can be when he's possessed and like just not himself, really. It's such a cool thing. I love this. However, just when Optimus looks like he's about to kill Twitch and Nightshade, that's of course when Thrash, Hashtag, and Jawbreaker manage to come in and save the day. I love how Thrash, Jawbreaker, and Hashtag come in to help save them and beat Optimus, where they work so seamlessly together. And again, after having seen all these Terrans fight smaller threats and train more over the course of the past 25 episodes, to see them now come to a point where together they actually can take Optimus in a fight is so cool to see, because that's something I really like about the Terrans. Each on their own, like one-on-one, the Terrans aren't necessarily so strong. What their strength comes from is the fact that they're such a well-coordinated team. If all the Terrans work together as a team, they can easily overcome whatever threat comes their way, especially here with Optimus and Alita, where Thrash ends up blocking Optimus's axes with his shield, and then Thrash comes in headbutting Optimus through a bunch of cargo boxes, and then finally Hashtag does the final blow by using her Wi-Fi to take control of a bunch of train cars and run over Optimus. So with Optimus stunned from the hit from Jawbreaker and Hashtag, she and Jawbreaker managed to hold Optimus down alongside Nightshade, giving Twitch just enough time to stab Optimus in the back with a spear and therefore immobilizing him as well. It's such a good fight, and easily probably my second favorite fight in this episode. After Optimus and Alita are dealt with, Twitch, of course, is really happy to see Thrash, Jawbreaker, and Hashtag still alive after they fell off the waterfall back in episode 25. And she gives a little speech here to the rest of them, explain how they are the last hope, as the name of the episode is titled, to saving not only just Robbie, Mo, Dot, and Alex, but also the rest of the world from Mandroid wanting to kill all Transformers. And she gives such an empowering speech here, and it's great to see just literally now all the Terrans working together. It reminds me a lot of Twitch leading all the Maltos together to save Hashtag back in episode 18 in the home two-parter. I just love just how much Twitch has come across as a leader over these past 25 episodes. It's why I want so badly to see Twitch become a Prime by the end of this show. Maybe in Season 2 or whenever EarthSpark decides to end. Make the last episode be Twitch becoming a Prime. That would be so cool in my opinion. But regardless, now that all the Terrans are reunited, they'd all decide to charge towards Mandroid's tower together, going across a bridge. However, when they get to said bridge, they're stopped by RC, Wheeljack, and Grimlock, who are now controlled by Mandroid. This time, though, Bee and Schlotter don't want to waste time having to battle them well to get to Mandroid when every second counts, so Bee and Schlotter offer to stay behind and hold off RC, Wheeljack, and Grimlock, while the rest of the Terrans all head over to the tower to try and stop Mandroid. However, when they all get there, they're stopped further by the Sharkticons that come down to try and stop them. So it's at this point Twitch and Thrash decide to go up alone to handle Mandroid, while Hashtag, Nightshade, and Jawbreaker deal with the Sharkticons. This sets up exactly what I was hoping for all the way back in episode 25, when I was worried that, oh, is the final battle really going to be Twitch and Nightshade against Mandroid? No, it's going to be Twitch and Thrash, thankfully, and I was so happy that they did that. So I can understand now why Nightshade was so crucial to being the one with Twitch in episode 25 instead of Thrash. Because, granted, I love Thrash, but I understand that Nightshade really is the most brightest, positive of the Terrans. So to have them be the one to sort of drag Twitch out of her little depression, and for Nightshade to make her feel more confident in herself again, I feel like that was totally necessary. And now that Thrash is back, he and Twitch can go on to have the final battle with Mandroid, which, man, I love the final battle they have with Mandroid. Twitch and Thrash make it to the top of the tower, planning to stop Mandroid from activating his weapon, but Thrash decides to go and sneak around, like, he climbs up the back of Mandroid's throne, trying to figure out if he can free Robbie, Mo, Dot, and Alex that way, while Twitch tries to stall Mandroid. And I love the conversation here between Twitch and Mandroid, where she ends up at first demanding that Mandroid shut down the weapons so that, and to let Robbie, Mo, and the rest of the Maltos go, but Mandroid, of course, always has one more ace up his sleeve, and just when it seems like Twitch has Mandroid cornered, he pulls out the Energon controlling device that he gave Croft again, activates one more time to bring out the last Transformer that he has under his control, and surprise, surprise, it's none other than Megatron. Megatron's, basically, entrance into this fight where Twitch has to survive against Megatron is just so scary, and I absolutely love it. Like, first off, you see Megatron hovering over the obelisk, like over the moon above Twitch, and she just looks totally horrified as like a bolt of lightning flashes behind Megatron, only further emphasizing just how dangerous he is. And I just love this, that Twitch is just, granted, she's come so far to Terran now, but she has to go up against the head of the Decepticons now in a one-on-one fight, and clearly, well, yes, all the Terrans together were able to take down Optimus, working together with Bumblebee and Schloeder. The fact that Twitch has to fight Megatron on her own is horrifying, and the only thing I would have liked more about this is what was cut in the original deleted version of this scene. So according to the storyboards done by India Swift in this original version, back when Megatron first lands and shoves his fusion cannon in Twitch's face, Mandroid, of course, in the final version says how no one can resist his control, not even Megatron, who is like, in his eyes, is the strongest Transformer of them all. But in the original version of this scene from the deleted storyboards, Megatron was actually meant to resist Mandroid's control just a little bit. Not completely, just a little bit. As you can see here in the storyboards, he actually, like, snaps out of it a bit, looking horrified at what he's about to do to Twitch. And he's even at a point where literally he's fighting with himself, trying to avoid from shooting Twitch, as he got her pinned on the ground, to the point where literally he starts crying as he's about to shoot her. I wish this kept in so badly, just because I wanted to see Megatron show more emotion. You literally have created one of the best versions of Megatron in the entire franchise with EarthSpark Megatron. You could have made him perfect if you just made him actually show weakness and vulnerability by having him be so upset that he's being forced to kill Twitch. It just would have been so good. And India Swift and a lot of other EarthSpark storyboarders said that this scene was cut just for time constraints, but there's so much other stuff in this episode that you could have cut instead of this, and I'm sorry, but just this one scene with Megatron actually tearing up as he's about to shoot Twitch, that would have been so awesome to have in the final version of this episode. It would have just made this fight even better than it already was, but it doesn't ruin it. I just really wish that would have stayed. So just as Twitch is frozen, like, totally from shock and fear as Megatron's about to kill her, Thrash screams at Twitch, begging her to fly away and try to survive against him. So Mandroid immediately recognizes that Thrash now is sneaking up behind him, so he shoots up like a giant beam at Thrash, which he just barely manages to dodge, and that gets into like a 2-on-2 or like a 1-on-1 fight between each of them, where Twitch has to basically fly around the tower, dodging Megatron, trying to survive against him and snap him out of his control, where she's dodging like all the missiles that are blowing up in the air around her as he chases her. It's so scary, but also so good, as it's backed by Megatron's unique funky theme that Crush Effect has been using throughout the entirety of the season. I absolutely love it. But at the same time, Thrash is fighting Mandroid, and while Twitch does come in to help Thrash out later in this episode, this Mandroid fight is mostly done with Thrash battling him, and this makes me so happy, because as a Thrash fan, it's so nice to see Thrash actually get a significant fight, because this is the first time he's done a significant one since, I want to say, Swindle all the way back in episode 4. The fact that Thrash actually holds his own against Mandroid for the most part here is just so good, and Zeno Robinson's performance in this is fantastic as well, where he's literally chastising Mandroid for saying that, oh, he literally just the whole Anakin thing where it would said you would destroy the Sith, not join them, because he's like, oh, you hate Transformers, but now you've become one, essentially, and I love this so much, that just Zeno Robinson's performance as Thrash in this scene is absolutely incredible, and how he fights Mandroid using all the techniques that he's learned from Bumblebee and all the other adventures he's had with Robbie and Mo throughout the show so far It's so good. Diedrich Bader and Zeno Robinson do fantastic in this scene.
You say you hate Transformers, but look at what you've done to yourself!
I do what I must to survive because of the Transformer threat.
And now, there's no difference between you and the people you hate!
Anyway, Twitch is struggling to try and survive against Megatron's onslaught of missile barrages that he keeps shooting at Twitch, and despite all our pleas to try and get Megatron to snap out of it, he just won't budge because of how strong the possession is that Mandroid has over him. The storyboards of this, again, are phenomenal. India Swoop did a great job with them and the fight against Thrash and Mandroid, which I've been playing throughout the course of this review. But just as Megatron fires one last barrage of missiles at Twitch plane to kill her finally, suddenly a bunch of other missiles come from behind Twitch, and I love that they have little shark faces painted on the tips of them, because when those missiles pass Twitch and blow up all the missiles that Megatron shot at her, it's revealed that turns out those missiles belong to none other than Starscream, Skywarp, and Nova Storm, who have all appeared to save Twitch. And this brings the best, most satisfying parts of the episode. Literally just had me cheering so hard. I don't think I've been hyped anymore watching EarthSpark than I was with this little ending bit. So, Starscream, Skywarp, and Nova Storm all come to save Twitch, which Twitch is so ecstatic about. It's like hugging Starscream as he transforms to save her, and Starscream's clearly embarrassed by shoving Twitch away, where he explains to her that apparently Starscream had learned of, and the rest of the Seekers had learned about all the Terrans had done saving the Decepticons from Ghost at the base, so he rallied all the other Decepticons together to try and help the Terrans stop Mandroid, even after it seemed as though Soundwave and Breakdown and the others didn't want anything to do with them. And the fact, I love that so much, the fact that Starscream of all Decepticons is the one who said, you know what, we should go out there and risk our lives to help the Autobots. No other Starscream in any continuity other than IDW 1 Starscream would do this. Prime Starscream would never do this. IDW 2 Starscream never do this. G1 Starscream never do this. The fact that EarthSpark Starscream has had such a character arc where he has become such a selfless person, willing to risk his and his fellow Seekers' lives just to save the Terrans and the rest of Earth's Transformers as well. Such a powerful moment, and I love how Steve Bloom delivers this line. He is fantastic as Starscream in this, and we get to see all the other Decepticons come in to help everyone else as well, where we first see actually Swindle, Hardtop, and Soundwave all coming in to help Nightshade, Hashtag, and Jawbreaker against the Sharkticons. I love how it's Swindle and Soundwave riding on top of Hardtop, and even like Hardtop's horn his horn honks to the theme of the original G1 Transformers theme, which is awesome. And according to the storyboards, actually, in this scene, Soundwave was eventually meant to be Tarantulas, who doesn't actually show up in this episode in the final version. So I'm wondering as to why Tarantulas was cut from this and why Soundwave was put instead. I guess because since Tarantulas never was shown in prison, it would make more sense if Soundwave showed up. Because the last time we saw Tarantulas in episode 13, he was still running away from Ghost, so there is the chance that he could have escaped. Which I believe to be is probably the thing that he's probably went back into hiding after events episode 13. So it made more sense to have Soundwave here helping out Swindle and Hardtop instead of Tarantulas. But regardless, they all come to help Nightshade, Hashtag, and Jawbreaker against the Sharkticons. And even when Bumblebee is in shoulder battling RC, Wheeljack, and Grimlock on the bridge, Breakdown comes in and like kicks Grimlock in the face, saving Bumblebee from him, and even gives a little wink to Bumblebee. And oh my god, the Breakbee shipper in me was so happy. You have no idea how much I was screaming with joy seeing the smile Breakdown gives to Bumblebee. I would have loved if you just made one comment or something towards Bee, something flirty or anything just to fuel my Breakbee addiction. But the fact that Breakdown and Bumblebee actually got together and fought side by side against Wheeljack, RC, and Grimlock was big enough for me. And Breakdown even brings in the 3 Ghost Cadets I mentioned earlier at the start of this episode review, where they come in their own Ghost Van to help him out against all the possessed Autobots. It's just so good to see all these characters that we've been seeing as sort of enemies to the Autobots and Terrans come back now and join together to stop Mandroid. It was so satisfying. Literally, I kid you not, this was probably my favorite part of the entire episode, and literally made me feel like, okay, everything that I've been watching for the past hour has been worth it, just for this one scene where all the Decepticons come in to save the Terrans was absolutely perfect. I love it so much. So that leaves Starscream, Skywarp, and Nova Storm to battle Megatron, and that gives Twitch enough time to escape from there and head back to the tower to help Thrash defeat Mandroid once and for all. So with Twitch coming in to help Thrash finally defeat Mandroid, I absolutely love this fight, where Twitch and Thrash are just trash-talking Mandroid the whole time as they beat him up, saying how far he's fallen, that he's just become the very thing he's sworn to destroy, and that he's more of a villain than the Terrans ever could have been made out to be. And I love too how in this fight, Twitch and Thrash actually utilize moves from other Autobots and Decepticons to defeat Mandroid in this. To start off, when Twitch is actually joining Thrash in the fight against Mandroid, she literally does the same trick Megatron did with Skywarp and Nova Storm back in episode 9, where she shoots her blaster into the air to give herself enough force to slam down and like punch Mandroid in the face. And then even Thrash, as he's battling Mandroid alongside Twitch, he ends up doing like a two-fisted like uppercut haymaker with his arms, very similar to the move Optimus used to kill Megatron back in the G1 Transformers movie. It's so cool to see so many nods are brought back to both earlier episodes of EarthSpark as well as other Transformers franchises, and it's just so good to see this. Like, the storyboard team is amazing. Catherine Kavari's, Robinson and Diedrich Bader were so good as Mandroid, as he starts, like, getting desperate and starts, like, breathing fire and laser beams everywhere to try and kill Twitch and Thrash. But he's just no match for them both, who just endlessly wail on him until he's back in his throne room when they say they're gonna stop him from killing all the Transformers. But then that's when Mandroid's trump card comes into play, and because they knocked him into the throne room, his weapons finally charge, and he has enough time to activate it, literally melting himself in the process, basically, or overloading himself so much that, like, his arms get all, like, bubbly, and, like, the windows on his body start cracking, and the whole weapon powers up. So Thrash, realizing there's only, like, a few seconds before it goes off, he just tackles Twitch and covers her as a whole wave goes off, and just kills everyone. Absolutely everyone. Hashtag Jawbreaker and Nightshade, they're all dead. Soundwave, Swindle, and Hardtop, they're dead. Megatron and Starscream die. Bumblebee, Breakdown, they all die, and it just keeps going all over the world until presumably every other Transformer that's on Earth is just instantly killed. And man, like, I was like, oh my god, like, there's no way they just literally killed off everyone here when I was watching this the first time. So after the huge wave goes off and kills every Transformer on Earth, presumably, Mandroid just slowly, like, falls off of his throne, presumably because since he runs off Energon now, too, the weapon presumably killed him as well. But as he's dying, he claims that he's a hero now, that he saved the world from all the Transformers, and then after a little bit of laughs, it stops, and it seems like Mandroid's dead too, but his death is far more unclear and ambiguous than Croft's, where she just got straight up vaporized. We don't actually hear Mandroid give a little, like, death rattle as he's, like, slowly laughing. It just stops. So we don't know if Mandroid's truly dead, considering it's the last time we see him. But I'm gonna go out on a limb and say Mandroid is dead, because if that's the case, he and Croft were the best villains in the Transformers franchise, or best human villains, I should say, in the Transformers franchise. Diedrich Bader played him fantastically. To have him fall so far from grace at the start of this show, and now basically just drive himself, literally, he was willing to kill himself just to wipe out every Transformer on Earth. And I gotta give credit to him, man. He went through it all to try and accomplish his goals, so I can at least somewhat respect that. But that's it. Everyone is presumably dead at this point, except for one. Thanks to Thrash sacrificing himself and taking the brunt of the explosion from the weapon to save Twitch, she was actually able to survive the blast alongside Thrash a little bit, but not without their own injuries. And finally, something I've been wanting since episode 4 of this season's finally happened, where we actually get battle damage on Transformers in EarthSpark. And to be fair, they went way further with the battle damage than I thought they were gonna do. I thought it was just gonna be like, oh, have a few characters like with their paint all chipped off, a few dents, maybe some pieces of armor knocked off. That's what I thought the battle damage was. But with Twitch and Thrash, the state that their bodies are in after being hit by Mandroid's weapon, it goes so further and more brutal than I ever imagined. First off, with Thrash, his whole body's just torn up. Literally, like, one of his car door shield is stuck in the ground, like, all shattered. And Thrash's, like, body's covered in scratch marks. He's got, like, scars all over his face, and one of the lenses of his goggles is even broken. But Twitch, he has it way worse. Even though she got covered by Thrash, Twitch easily got more of the damage. Literally to the point where one of her rotor wings is bent down, nearly completely snapped off. And the biggest thing is, one of her eyes is actually broken completely. Literally, when I saw that, she literally see that one of her eyes, the whole, it's offline, and it's got like 3 huge cracks across the eye, along with a bunch of other scars on that side of her face. I literally gasped aloud when I saw how messed up Twitch was, because I did not expect it to go that far. I thought if anything we'd get maybe like a few scratches on Twitch's body, maybe give her a bit of a black eye or something. The fact that he go so far as to actually have her lose an eye in this scene blows my mind, the fact that they were willing to go that far with it. Because Cyril Noyelli, who was one of the executive producers on the show, he's no stranger to showing, like, characters getting messed up in his kids' shows. Literally, when he ran the 2012 Ninja Turtles show, he had Leonardo and all the other Ninja Turtles getting beat up so much in that show. So I was surprised that it took them till the end of season 1 here to actually have a proper moment where Twitch and Thrash are just totally beat up in this point. So as Twitch seems to be mostly alright despite the fact that she's lost one wing and an eye, essentially, she just only can watch in horror as Thrash dies too from the weapon. So that leaves her as not only the last living Terran, but for now, the last living Transformer as well. So she's just cradling Thrash's dead body, sobbing at this point. And I do wish, as the storyboards are here showing, she was meant to openly cry too in this scene. So I just wish that we actually just got to see a Transformer cry, man. It would have made this scene so perfect, but despite that, though, this scene actually is still perfect. I love it, too, especially, and that's because of Crush Effect's music here. They play this very somber synthwave horn noise as Twitch is crying over Thrash's dead body, and then all the Maltos end up waking up with their, after the weapon went off, they all free themselves from the little bubbles they've got their heads in, and walk over to see Twitch cradling Thrash's dead body, and they're just all totally shocked that Mandroid has essentially won to them. He succeeded and killed, presumably, all of their Transformers on the planet besides Twitch, so there's nothing that they can really do. But as Robbie and Mo watch Twitch cradling Thrash's dead body, Robbie's cybersleeve starts to glow alongside Mo's, where they realize that apparently they still have a bit of the Quintus Prime power that Mandroid stole from them at the start of episode 25, so presumably they got it back after the weapon drained it. So Robbie proposes the idea of using the tower that Mandroid used to kill all Transformers, but instead relay a healing message by using the power of their cybersleeves to instead reverse it and just revive every single Transformer on Earth in the efforts that it will fix everything. Now, I'll tell you right now, when I saw this was going to happen, and Robbie and Mo were just essentially going to undo everything in like the snap of a finger, just like that, I'll tell you right now, I hated this ending. I know, me hating something in EarthSpark? Say it ain't so, but yeah, when I first saw this, I despised this ending. I was so furious because I'm thinking, really? After everything the Terrans did, literally dying to try and save Robbie and Mo, you're telling me they didn't have to put up a fight at all if Robbie and Mo could have just fixed everything after Mandroid's weapon went off? I was so furious because I'm thinking, there's no point then. There was no point to all of this fighting if Robbie and Mo could have just redid everything no matter what. But then I took this was like the first day I watched the episode. So I took some time off, I waited a few hours just to collect myself, and then I thought about it. In a way, that's not what happened here at all. I don't think Robbie and Mo could have always just undid everything Mandroid did. Because if you think about it, every time Quintus Prime's power came in as a sort of like divine intervention in EarthSpark, it came when the Terrans and Maltos needed it the most. Back in episodes 9 and 10, when Twitch and Thrash were trying to help Robbie and Mo create Nightshade, Hashtag, and Jawbreaker, they were only able to do it when they saw how desperately Twitch and Thrash were trying to fight off all the Arachnamechs, and then when Mo begged Quintus to help them out, that's when the Emberstone finally activated and created Hashtag, Jawbreaker, Nightshade. The second time this happened was in episode 18, when they were trying to free Hashtag from being controlled by Mandroid, where it was only when all the Terrans and Maltos came together, when they actually decided to start working as a team, that's when the Emberstone lit up inside the cave and gave them all the force field power to save Hashtag and break free from Mandroid's programming. The third time it happened was in episode 22, when Mo, after going through a little vision quest where she learned that things would have been so much worse if she didn't take the Emberstone and got cybersleeves with Robbie, that's when Quintus gave her the power to heal Robbie and cure him of his cybersleeve illness by imbuing the power of the Emberstone inside her. So the way I see it, I feel like at this point, Quintus Prime somehow, through the afterlife or whatever, recognized all the sacrifices all the Terrans made to try and save Robbie, Mo, Dot, and Alex from Mandroid. And so the fact that they all literally gave their lives, with the exception of Twitch, of course, because Thrash sacrificed himself to save her, gave to save Robbie, Mo, Dot, and Alex, that's why some of Quintus Prime's power came back to their cybersleeves enough for Robbie and Mo to activate it. And because of that, that makes the ending a lot more tasteful in my opinion. It feels like the ending is actually far more well-earned, and that because of the Terran sacrifice, Robbie and Mo were able to do it. It wasn't just because, oh, they were always able to, but it was because the Terrans convinced Quintus to give him a little bit of their power, just a last little bit, to try and save them all. And that's only further emphasized because when Robbie and Mo activate the tower and revive everyone, they actually create a giant, like a small replica of the Ember Stone, presumably with what remains of the last of their prime power. It's not the Ember Stone, because I assume it's the actual Ember Stone is probably still imbued inside Mo's cyber sleeve from the events of episode 22, but the fact that basically the essence of the Ember Stone is being used here to activate the weapon and revive everyone. And I absolutely love the scene of Robbie and Mo using the tower to revive everyone. It plays this amazing, like an extended, more triumphant version of the Terrans theme as a big green wave flashes off across the whole world this time to instead revive everyone. Starting, of course, it revives hashtag Jawbreaker, Nightshade, the Sharkticons, Soundwave, Swindle, and Hardtop. Then it hits the bridge, reviving Bumblebee, Breakdown, and the other Autobots. And then finally, Starscream, Megatron, and the rest of the Seekers. And then as this is playing, we also see a few clips like of various moments throughout the show of all the Robbie, Mo, and the rest of their Terran siblings working together, just to show sort of basically a bookend thing where to show how far they've come. And I do like this. The storyboards make this scene awesome as well, especially there were some points that were scrapped, such as Shockwave getting revived next to Fluffy Ears, who would be licking his cannon, and he was going to be threatening to shoot her, but once she licks his cannon again, he actually pets her. Granted, a bit of this still happens in the final version where Shockwave is still woken up by Fluffy Ears back at Malto Homestead, but he doesn't threaten to kill her and then pet her as a result. But there is some other stuff that did make it in, like with Optimus and Lita waking up back at the port, watching the wave, the tower activating revive everyone, Optimus just watching with a big smile. The storyboard team, or the animation team, did a great job of bringing India Swift storyboards to life, and I think what would have made this even better was what was going to happen in the original version of this scene. So in the original version of the scene, the music that was going to play wasn't this actual, like, reprisal of the Terrans theme, but it was actually going to be the full version of The Touch by Stan Butch, which was revealed by India Swift on Tumblr, where they explained that the storyboards are actually synced up to the beat of The Touch, so if they actually got the rights to use the song in the scene, it would be all good to go ahead and use it. So maybe one day I'll go ahead and make like an alternate version of this scene where The Touch is used, just so you guys can understand what the original plan was. But I'm totally happy with what the original, what ends up being used in the final version. The reprisal of the Terrans theme was just so good, and it ends up reviving everyone. And then after that, the flashbacks end with a little bit of like Robbie and Mo like touching the imaginary Ember Stone between them, and then it starts cracking and then fractures completely before it releases a second wave that reaches over the entire world this time, and not just the entirety of Witwicky, therefore reviving presumably all other Transformers on Earth, but maybe also setting something up for Season 2 that I want to talk about in a later video. I'll be diving more into that in a future video, but I'll just leave it as a little thing, like what could this mean by this green wave that goes all over the world, Well, you'll have to wait and see what I think of what's going to happen in Season 2 later on. But anyway, the scene then ends with the wave finally reviving Thrash as well, while also fixing all the injuries he and Twitch sustained, including giving Twitch her eye back as well. And while I am happy that Twitch and Thrash are alive and well now, part of me still wish that Twitch and Thrash had to keep some sort of scars from this fight. Like, man, it would have been crazy if they actually went ahead and had Twitch keep her eye lost permanently after this episode, where she going into Season 2, she just has an eye patch on the whole time. That would have been so cool to see. But I understand, again, this is a kid's show. It would be kind of traumatic if you have your main character essentially be losing an eye in the Season 1 finale for a kid's show, no less. So I understand that having just Twitch have her whole body healed alongside Thrash. But regardless, Twitch is so happy to see that Thrash is alive, just as hashtag Jawbreaker, Nightshade, Bumblebee, and Schloeder all end up climbing to the top of the tower to check on everyone. And so as they're all celebrating that they've saved the day and all that, they realize that there's a huge symbol being displayed over the sky above the tower, and it looks very similar to the Autobot symbol. And that's when Bumblebee, Nightshade, and Jawbreaker realize that it's not an Autobot symbol, it's the Terrans official symbol. And I gotta say, I love the design of the Terran insignia, the fact that it's kind of like the Autobot symbol, but mixed in with a bit more of a round human child face almost. I think it's a perfect mix to show that what Terrans are essentially, that they're a mix of human and Cybertronian DNA, and that they still have a youthful appearance to them. I absolutely love the design of the Terran logo, and I think it would be so cool if in Season 2, all the Terrans actually end up getting the insignia, like, like, as badges on their bodies at some point in Season 2. That would be so cool to see if they actually got proper Terran symbols. Anyway, the season, and therefore this episode, ends with Robbie, Mo, and everyone else looking up at the rising sun, with Robbie saying how happy he is to live in Witwiki with the rest of his family. And so everyone just stares up into the sun happy as the camera pans back up to the symbol of the Terrans, and then it just fades away, and with it, Season 1 of EarthSpark comes to a perfect end, therefore cementing it as what I believe to be the perfect Transformers show. And so that was my review of Transformers EarthSpark Season 1, Episode 26, The Last Hope Part 2, and with it, the entirety of The Last Hope season finale. As I said before with Episode 25, I gave it a 10 out of 10. With Episode 26, I'd give it a 100 out of 10. The perfect end to what has easily been a nearly perfect season of Transformers. EarthSpark has done the impossible and actually beaten Transformers Prime, in my opinion, as the greatest Transformers show of all time. I want to give a big thank you to, first off, the entire cast and crew of EarthSpark. If any of you happen to be watching this review or any of my other videos in this series over the past year, just know that you guys have created a fantastic show that will hopefully stand the test of time and introduce several new fans to Transformers, while also introducing several new characters into the Transformers franchise. I would love to see Twitch, Thrash, Hashtag, Jawbreaker, and Nightshade all show up in other Transformers franchises or comics. Robert Kirkman, if you're watching this right now, please put the Terrans in your Skybound comics that are coming out next month. I would love to see them. Thank you again also to all my subscribers and viewers who have just been watching my videos over the past year. I've loved your support and everyone who's supported me. I want to give a shout out to a few YouTubers that have helped me throughout this whole thing. Comet and Cam, Emperor Kumquat, Ultra Primal, Miss TFP, and J Motions. All of you guys are so instrumental in just helping me as someone who's, well, I've been only part of the Transformers fandom for less than 10 years at this point, and I've just started getting seriously into reviews over the past 2 years. The fact that you all have shown me so much love with putting together this series, and it just means the world to me. So thank you all so much for all your love. All the cast and crew of EarthSpark, my fellow Transformers YouTubers, all my fans and subscribers. Thank you all so much for enjoying my reviews of Transformers EarthSpark Season 1. But that, of course, begs the question, what would I rate the entirety of EarthSpark Season 1 for now? Back in my review of Transformers Cyberverse, I ended up giving reviews of each season's score after finishing it, and then when Cyberverse ended, I ended up giving a score to the entire show at the end of the last episode. I'm not going to do that this time. So what I'm going to do instead is something that I've never done before for a Transformers review, and that is I'm going to be making a full-on, hour to 2 to 3 hour review video essay, basically covering the entirety of EarthSpark Season 1 as a whole. So be sure to keep an eye out for that. I hope to release it some point in October or November to coincide with the 1-year anniversary of EarthSpark. But also on top of that, of course, we're still a while away from Season 2 of EarthSpark, where we're going to be, which will probably come out either later this year in November, December, or maybe early next year, probably about March to April 2024. So surely we're gonna obviously have a lot more EarthSpark to talk about before then. I've got tons of videos planned regarding EarthSpark with the future. We're gonna be doing tier lists, we're gonna be doing encyclopedia character files on a bunch of EarthSpark characters, we're gonna be making Easter egg videos on EarthSpark, discussions about what possibly could be happening in Season 2. I hope you guys stick around for me talking about EarthSpark Season 2 and just my thoughts on Season 1 more. I'm so excited to talk about it. So once again, I want to thank you guys so much for the past year of me covering EarthSpark Season 1, and I hope you all guys stick around for when I review Season 2 later this year or early next year, as well as a bunch of other EarthSpark videos I have plans to cover throughout the remainder of this year. Thank you all so much for watching. If you like this video, be sure to like, comment, and of course subscribe, and I will see you guys later.